Pragmata is the rare game that pays homage to classic, old-school design philosophy while daring to try something very new and take that risk with a new IP. Capcom should be applauded for taking a leap of faith with Pragmata when so many other developers play it safe and then monetize on top of that safety for their own bottom dollar. In an industry obsessed with maximizing profit at every turn, Capcom took a genuine risk, blending some brilliant old-school design philosophy with ideas that feel wildly forward-thinking on a minute-to-minute basis. Everyone and their dog that wishes for a throwback to the good old days of gaming, this is it, while also being an eye to the future of what developers can do if the talent is given room to breathe. The key takeaway of Pragmata is just how focused everything feels. Upgrades aren't just incremental, they're impactful. Mods don't just exist, they change how you play. And the game constantly pushes you to engage with that through a variety of mechanics. Whether that's exploration, weapon upgrades, skill upgrades, hacking upgrades. You've also got the limited weapon system. That means that once ammo is gone, the weapon is gone until you find something else. This actually pushes you into upgrading a variety of weapons, which further pushes you into exploring the maps for those materials to upgrade your weapons. And those maps are tightly designed, interlinked, and constantly overlapping with one another, making you feel like you really are part of the space station you are in. You are encouraged to experiment. Capcom have taken the guide rails off and they're not scared to let you become powerful. You need to upgrade multiple tools and actually engage with the systems. There's no bloated economy, there's no junk loot. And to be honest, there's no rewards that you just don't care about. Everything here is impactful. Everything here can change the way you play, can change the way you take on the next encounter. Everything feeds back into the gameplay loop. It's just so streamlined. Modern games often reward you with things you don't need. Pragmata rewards you with things you use immediately. Underneath all the futuristic mechanics, flashy graphics, and exciting weapons, this is a very old school game. The level design feels closer to old school platformers than anything modern. Tight spaces, hidden paths, constant little detours that actually matter. The maps aren't big, but they are dense. Every corner leads somewhere, every path has a purpose. There's even a bit of light Metroidvania structure thrown in that makes you want to revisit areas, unlock new routes, find more materials and upgrades. But the magic here is that it never feels like grinding. You actually want to go to these maps because they're so good. It's not exploring out of obligation, you're exploring because it's fun, it's rewarding, and the core gameplay mechanic is exciting, engrossing, and quite frankly, addictive. I never felt in Pragmata that I had to explore somewhere. I always just thought, is there something that can get me another upgrade for a new weapon or a new hacking node around that corner? Because having multiple tools at your disposal means that no matter what drops, you've always got options. And that is just fantastic design. So we've talked about a lot of old school ideas. Well, what about the new school? Well, it's quite obvious, I think. It's the hacking. That system, without trying to sound cliche or classic YouTube, it just changes everything. On paper, it sounds like too much. You're shooting, you're moving, you're positioning, you're moving the hacking grid. Enemies are shooting you at the same time. But it just works. And again, this just goes back to how well refined this game is. I can see why it took them so long to release the game. My assumption is they didn't need to add content to it, they just needed to refine the hacking mechanic. And this extremely engaging gameplay loop elevates every aspect of the game. You know, sometimes in games you play and you kind of groan when you get to another encounter because you're trying to find materials or you're trying to explore a map and the combat's just so samey or so bullet spongy, and that just never happens in Pragmata because you're constantly juggling offense, positioning, timing, and awareness. And that creates something most game lacks. Constant second-to-second engagement. There is no autopilot, there's no click to kill everything button, or skill to kill everything button. There's no filler encounters. The combat just becomes a frantic, fast-paced, layered system without ever feeling overwhelming. Hacking exposes weaknesses, shooting capitalizes on it, abilities expand both, nothing exists on its own, and that is why it just never gets boring. I am halfway through my second playthrough on New Game Plus, and I still love it. Another thing to love about Pragmata is how the game is just lacking any filler. It's just a lot of variation. It's a lot of evolving of the core mechanics of the game, whether that be collectibles, optional challenges such as the training missions, or even just how skills, hacking nodes, and weapons can alter gameplay. The training missions, for example, feel very similar to Metal Gear Solid's VR missions, but they are designed in a way that just offers enough difference from the core gameplay experience that it feels a bit refreshing. They improve your skills, give meaningful rewards, and offer a different kind of challenge. I feel like everything in Pragmata means you're kind of building something, even something as simple as the collectibles for Diana's room is so thought out, it's so well done, it's so thoughtful. Honestly, the first time I completed a room, I was just like, damn, that's such a clever idea. It makes you feel more attached to Diana. It makes her feel more like your daughter, like you're building your kid's first room. It just shows a company that's really in touch with the core themes of its game, the focus of its game, the message they're trying to get across to the player, and what they're trying to do with the story. The game doesn't just stretch content, it just ever so slightly rotates it enough to be fresh. If there are to be minor criticisms of Pragmata, it would be the story and the general objectives that you have in the story. The main plot points can be a touch cliche. Maybe I played too much Resident Evil recently, but you know the core mission objectives. Oh, the power's out, go power it up. Oh, there's a generator. You need to turn off 5 generators to open a door, etc, etc. And I'm also not a fan of the hologram style exposition.
They're always there when you need them.
Man, what should we do?
I feel in a game that's so heartwarming, in a game that makes you feel so connected to the main characters, that form of storytelling feels really disconnected. Hugh losing his crew and close friends in the opening scenes of the game doesn't seem to have the impact it should do. I feel the story is possibly going for Diana replacing those friends, but they could have done a much better job in telling that story, in showing the emotional depth of that story and the impact emotionally of him losing his friends and him looking to Diana to replace those friends.
Ken was a real goofball. Nicholas was always angry with him.
You didn't get along?
No, we were the kind of pals who could speak our minds, no sugarcoating. In a word, friends.
Also, if I'm going to be super critical in the sense that I want more, I would like to have seen Capcom do a bit more with the level design or the art style, with the story being about a material found on the moon that allows you to build anything via 3D printing. It would have been nice to see, let's say, a different country or a different city. We see a bit of New York, but they allude to a bit of Tokyo and a bit of Seoul, but we never see it, and that's a bit of a shame. But, you know, that isn't what carries the game or the story, it's actually the characters, and they are so likable. I can't speak too much about the ending, but fair to say, I think that when you finish this game, you'll realize how committed to these characters you are as a player. And that works because the dialogue is natural, it's consistent, it's heartwarming, it's likable, and it builds something believable. I think it's tough to build connection between a main character and Diana when they've just met. Like in the story, they've just met and you start building this relationship, and they are constrained by time. Capcom likes to build these tight, narrow 10 to 15 hour games, and to build a kind of heartwarming connection that is tough. I think they do a really good job of it, and they make a really good go of it. The game doesn't exposition dump, it doesn't try and tell you everything under the sun, it just tells you everything that matters. After about 25 hours in Pragmata, I take a step back and I see the bigger picture. Pragmata doesn't stand out because of sheer scale, it stands out because of its precision, its focus, its commitment to creating a tight, engrossing, consistently engaging video game that adheres to a bunch of classic old school rules that a lot of people seem to have forgotten, while also adding a completely new mechanic that is clearly being thought out a lot over a long period of time, supposedly by a team of young, fresh Capcom developers, and boy oh boy have they made a name for themselves. It's a game that clearly through its development cycle has refined the initial idea it had to perfection. Every system is intentional, every mechanic feels tested, everything feels built to work alongside one another. I think we need so many more games like Pragmata. For every Crimson Desert that works on that sheer vast open world scale, there's so many that just don't. There's so many that just feel bloated and oversaturated as to pad the game time. Pragmata is the complete opposite. If anything, it's the anti-Crimson Desert, and that isn't meant to be a knock on Crimson Desert, but if you played Crimson Desert right before playing Pragmata, I'm sure you'll agree. It's not a perfect game. Yes, sometimes the delivery can miss on the story, and yes, the mission structure you've seen a million times in Capcom games, but it doesn't really matter because what it gets right, it fully commits to and delivers unapologetically. The gameplay is 10 out of 10, the pacing is 10 out of 10, the design of the maps, the design of the in-game systems that feed back into one another, are all 10 out of 10. Pragmata is a game that simply understands something modern gaming seems to have forgotten. You don't need more, you just need to make what you have better. Because Pragmata doesn't just cut the bloat, it replaces it all with purpose. Modern games are bigger than ever. There's more content, there's more systems, just more everything, and somehow they feel worse to play. Bloated progression, filler content, mechanics that exist just to exist. But then there's Pragmata, Capcom's brave new IP, and a game that dares to do the new, the old, and everything in between. But more importantly than all of that, they do it all to an elite level. It's not trying to give you more, it's trying to make sure that everything it does give you actually matters. And that is why Pragmata is utterly fantastic, and it's Capcom at the peak of their powers.